Hello and welcome to In the Court of the Wenton Knave, where we are doing mini reviews of the mighty journey that is Zappa. Thanks for sticking with us, if you've been with us right from the start all this way. We've passed halfway. So, today we're doing Shut Up and Play Your Guitar. I've made a decision to amalgamate the three albums, Shut Up and Play Your Guitar, Shut Up and Play Your Guitar Some More, and The Return of the Son of Shut Up and Play Your Guitar, into one review because there's probably not a huge amount I'm going to say about them, so it would be kind of boring if I did that over 3 weeks. In the early 80s, he set up his own mail order company with the purpose of releasing 3 albums of guitar solos for mail order. Obviously, the Zappa guitar solo thing is one of his genres of music he does, I suppose you could say. And those that know Zappa, if you say Zappa guitar solo, you know the kind of stuff you're going to hear. So, an album of guitar solos, you think, well, that's cool, but you don't think it's going to be fantastic. And what's great about it, of course, is that it is surprisingly listenable. Obviously, here you've got 20 tracks of it, but you're not supposed to do that. It's supposed to be 3 separate albums originally, which was re-released in Europe as a 3-record box set. It's good. It's really listenable. The most of it comes from the 1980 American tour and the Hammersmith shows in '79. A couple of other tracks from other places as well. What's really interesting, though, of course, is about how they released Tinseltown Rebellion on sort of mainstream release, and obviously Shut Up and Play Guitar was like the weird little album for specialists who want a mail order. But apparently this did better than Tinseltown Rebellion, which must have been great, because obviously without all of that distribution stuff going on, without really having to deal with the record company, they must have made a lot more profit out of that. So that's very cool. It must have, maybe that was frustrating, because maybe when this is just some edited guitar solo, the amount of work that goes into writing the new material, particularly the next album, that must have been weird. But anyway, this is a great instrumental Zappa album of guitar solos. It's really listenable. I mean, the funny thing about this album is that you'd think, well, he's there's another double album of guitar solos to come. You'd think by releasing such a high amount of stuff that the quality's gonna start to drop, and of course it doesn't. All these albums, all this music, and the standard seems so high. But I mean, to be fair, Zappa did point out that what he's released is only a small fraction of what went on. And in terms of the guitar solos, it usually didn't work. I think it was Robert Fripp said that, with improvisation, if you're 30% successful in an improvisation, 30% of the time, that's a success. So you put it that way, that's fair enough, isn't it? Because he's doing so many shows, he's coming out with this amazing stuff. So starting with Shut Up and Play Your Guitar, this was the first album. The first track is 555, capital letters. It's a great way to start, because straight away, it's not just the familiar Zappa sound of guitar solos. You hear, oh, actually, that's a really cool riff. It's noisy and heavy and stuff. Great way to open the album. And some cool, what I think is harmonic minor scale, might be Phrygian, not sure, playing going on. Very cool. The next track is Hog Heaven. A bit more meandering, a bit more what you would have expected from an album of guitar solos. It sounds like a Zappa guitar solo. But what's quite amusing about it, there's a little bit where he starts playing the little bit of Smoke on the Water, which is such a simple motif, it could have been a coincidence, but obviously he's got an association there with that song, and I suspect that's what he was doing. That's quite entertaining. Lots of little things like that on this album. Then the next track is Shut Up and Play Your Guitar, which is quite clearly from an Inca Roads jam. I believe several of these songs are actually from Inca Roads, which is apt, I think, because Inca Roads, there's something very definitive about it, I've always thought, in that it's what does Frank Zappa sound like, Inca Roads. While You Were Out, some really nice jazzy chords, it brings it down a bit, some little Hendrixy little fills, but stuff, which is very nice. What's really interesting about it, it was kind of rearranged for synclavier later and became While You Were Art 2. Treacherous Cretins, which is a great title for a track, love stuff like that. Track 5. Starts with a soft arpeggio, and then there's a reggae rhythm, and you've got sort of almost Genesis-y keyboard washes of sort of Wind and Wuthering type stuff going on, and there's some cool playing over the top. It's a great example of the kind of thing that only comes from improvisation. If they'd gone away and written it and decided, right, that's the track, and then recorded it, it wouldn't have been as interesting as this performance here, because it's spontaneous. Very cool. Heavy duty Judy. Heavy blues playing, back to the real, when he really pulls the strings, he's got dirty fingernails. That's cool, noisy and dirty and good. And the first album ends with Soup and Old Clothes, which is a lengthy blues workout. Not the same as the previous track in that it's kind of more notes, so it is more traditional Zappa-y guitar improvisation. Apparently when he was explaining his improvisational style, he doesn't think about notes and scales, he sees shape, so he thinks, well, that's a circle and that's a triangle. Plays around them like that, which is really interesting. And he's obviously, he doesn't necessarily have the technique of his band by this point, and when he will play solos, often it will be over sort of 1 or 2 chords, but he has a unique guitar playing style. I don't think anybody sounds like that. There are these big influences from his childhood. You do hear that in some of those early players a bit, but it's not like Zappa, obviously, who modally is much more interesting. And there is a Hendrixism in it's that kind of thing, which is great. Which brings us on to the second album. These were originally released as separate albums, bear in mind, so Shut Up and Play Your Guitar Some More is the second album. And the first track is Variations on the Carlos Santana Secret Chord Progression. Great title. It's kind of a Latin parody, so it starts with the silly Latin parody bass, but lots of over-the-top drumming, loads of rolls, and then some real staccato playing from Frank. It's a great example of where you wouldn't write that. You wouldn't release that as a song and write it and record it. It's just something that came out of a jam, and it's obviously very spontaneous, and it speeds up as it goes and slows down, speeds up again, and that's very cool. The drums are all over the place. It's crazy, but really listenable. What's really interesting, he's using a harmonizer on his guitar, so you've got two guitar tracks matching each other, which is cool. That's not Steve Vai this time. The next song, Gee, I Like Your Pants. Some chords and some tapping, controversial. Track 3, Canarsie, and there's a little bit of vocals actually of someone saying in Canarsie everybody's the same or something. It sounds like something from Beautiful Guy, from You Are What You Is, possibly. But regardless, it's very much that kind of thing. It's possibly Indian scales, like very Steve Vai, and there's some sitar effects going on, I think, from the keyboards. So that's pretty cool. Ship Ahoy, this is the only track from 1976, so it's the earliest track on here from some shows in Japan, and was originally on leather. This is our last leather track, actually, of recordings that are actually on leather, called Duck Duck Goose on leather. But it's a great bit of experimenting with, obviously he's got some sort of delay effect going on, or possibly or an actual looper going on, and playing with the wire to get this cool sounds. Ideal for this kind of album, and that he's experimenting with guitar sound, texture of the sound. Very cool. Track 5 is the Deathless Horsie, and this actually starts the second disc of the 2-disc CD release. I assume Deathless Horsie means beating a dead horse, and the idea is that the players will play on and play on and play on for as long as they need to. But it is a written piece, and it was played for many years. It's really cool. There's the really relaxed arpeggios, which I suppose sort of goes round and round and round and round, repeating, like sort of magic roundabout kind of thing, which just leaves everyone free to jam. This is a good version, but there are, as it was played for many years, there are obviously better versions, and I think the best version is by the 84 band, and that's on, you can't do that on Staging or Volume 1. Then track 6, Shut Up and Play Your Guitar Some More. More relaxed, washes of chords, very smooth, very good. And the album closes with Pink Napkins, which is obviously a very, very quiet bit of a performance of Black Napkins. And this is the only track from 77 from what is essentially the Live in New York band with Eddie Johnson and all those people. And it's the quiet section of Black Napkins. Very good. And then the final album we have is Return of the Sun. I should have been playing guitar. Obviously a reference to Varese. The first song is Beat It With Your Fist, and it's kind of like not so much a complex rhythm, but a busy drumming stuff over one bass note. Lots of notes in the solo, and it kind of falls apart a bit at the end. But then we get a fairly long bit of piano voices from the Lumpy Gravy sessions, which is always welcome. Track 2 is Return of the Sun, and just been playing guitar. I'm assuming this is an Inca Rhodes solo. It sounds like that, really stretching out. I think it's about 8 minutes, so that's cool. It doesn't change for quite a while, but then, maybe about the 6-minute mark, it just goes into the really dissonant melody, which is brilliant. Track 3 is Pinocchio's Furniture, which is another great track for a 2-minute piece. Just think to bob your head to, he's using the harmonizer again, get 2 guitar parts, so that's great. Why Johnny Can't Read, completely formless. It's all about the guitar texture, and there's some band playing in the background. It's very improvisational and formless though. But then it just goes into like a blues ending, and there's an applause by the audience. So it's a bit of an oddity really, a bit of odd and end. Stucco Homes. Some soft jazz stuff going on. Apparently this was recorded in the studio, although it certainly doesn't sound like it was recorded in the studio. It sounds like a live performance, so I'm not sure about that. But the album finishes with Canard Du Jour, which is a duet, just the two of them, between Zappa and Jean-Luc Ponty, who we haven't heard for a while. So no one else playing, and it is comparable to Ocean is the Ultimate Solution. It's that kind of thing. It may well be better than Ocean is the Ultimate Solution. It's, I think, the highlight of the whole set, where he's experimenting with the texture of the guitar, but on top of that you got violin. So really great. And one of those sort of missed classics that people don't spot. So great stuff. Shut up and play your guitar. See you next time.